This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2017 NFL Draft. We're switching gears, talking edge rushers, and this is the draft that is rich with edge rushers. Anytime you're talking about the first overall selection being an edge rusher, and really having good value throughout the entire draft, you could probably see upwards of 4, maybe even 5 go in the first round, another 4 or 5 in the second round, another 3, 4, or 5 in the third round. It's that deep in this particular draft if you're looking for an edge rusher. If you're looking for a defensive player in general, outside of the defensive line, this is probably the draft that you should be looking at. This is a draft stocked and chocked full of defensive difference makers, and this guy that I'm about to talk about is probably at the top of the list for many people observing this draft from afar. It's a guy that's been on the radar for quite some time. He jumped on my radar last year, been following him ever since, and I'm here to tell you that this is the type of player right here that can change the game for you. And it's a guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing how he fares at the next level, because I do have some questions about some of the things that I saw on tape and some of the things I've been hearing. So let's discuss this next guy and this big name in the 2017 NFL Draft. I'm talking, of course, about Texas A&M stud, Myles Garrett. Let's jump into his pros and talk about why this guy is most likely, I'm talking about at a 99.9% clip, going to be the first pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. So starting out with Myles Garrett and his pros, size, of course, length. I'm going ahead and just package those two together. It's a big man, 6'4", 272 pounds. This guy is huge, and he can do a multitude of things for you with that size. He can set a good enough edge. We'll talk about that as we progress in this breakdown, but he can set a little bit of an edge for you. He can get up the field, use that length to disengage from an offensive lineman to get to the ball carrier. He can use that length to try and bull rush to get up the field and get to the quarterback, or get in the backfield and get to the running back. He can use that size and length to do a number of different things to help him be the standout player that we all perceive him to be, and a guy that right now is the consensus #1 overall selection in this draft. Also, the next pro we're talking about with him is strength. This is a guy, 33 reps at the combine, one of the top numbers at his position. And you're talking about a guy that's big, physical, fast, and strong. These are all attributes that land you at the top of a draft class. And this guy has everything that you're looking for from that standpoint in terms of physical makeup. This guy is a Greek goddess. He's chiseled, he's big, he's physical. And like I said, those 33 reps translates to the field. When they move him around, and we'll talk about his versatility a little bit later on, but when they move him around, this is a guy that at 272 pounds can go inside and be just as effective, if not more effective, inside than he is outside as a pass rusher. And it's because of that strength and that length that I referenced earlier that allows him to get into the tackle, into the guard, into the center's chest, and drive them backwards. Speaking of which, bull rush. We're talking about a guy with a very profound and impactful bull rush, a guy that you will see win a lot of times inside with either quickness or a bull rush. And again, for a guy that's 272 pounds, sometimes you don't really think about a bull rush being one of their premier moves, but this is a guy that will take an offensive lineman, put him on skates, get into the backfield. And I talked about the athleticism, a guy that we're talking about with a 10.6 broad, a 41-inch vertical leap. And oh, by the way, this guy ran a sub-4 540 at his pro day, or a sub-4 640. Ran a 4.64 at the combine, bested that by a whole tenth of a second, ran like a 4.55 at his pro day. So this is a guy that is just an athletic freak, as you could imagine, with a 41-inch vertical at 6'4". It shows you the explosion and explosiveness. Talked about the ability to bull rush. All of that comes from his core and his lower body and his lower half, being able to drive guys backwards. And I talked about the upper body strip with the 33 reps. This guy has the complete package. Burst and get off is the next pro. And a lot of these premier edge rushers, guys that we're going to talk about as top tier pass rushers and edge rushers in this draft, going to have an elite get off, whether it's via snap count and timing it up and guessing the snap count, or just pure unadulterated explosion off the snap. This guy has the ability to just get off the snap with explosion. Doesn't have to time it up like some of these other guys in this draft to get the advantage. He's just one of these guys that just naturally has the ability to get off the snap, and his first 3 steps are electric. If you're not one of these quick-footed ninja-like tackles, you will get beat off the snap trying to defend Myles Garrett. You won't even get a hand on him. In certain instances, I've seen him run around guys and them not even lay a finger on him. And no, he's not offsides, okay? His get off, his burst off the snap, his initial get off is scary if you're a tackle that is a little slow of foot. Secondary move. Again, he's not a complete finished product, and I think this is something that he can work on a little bit more, but I saw it enough to know that it's there and it's something that is impactful for him. He's got a secondary move when his initial rush doesn't work. I saw him spin. He went up the field hard with the speed rush. It didn't work initially, spun back inside, and found himself right at the quarterback, got to hurry, forced the quarterback to throw the football away. He has the ability to do that. Go hard outside. That doesn't work initially. Swim back to the inside, and the quarterback still holding on to the football, chase him down from behind, force him to get rid of the football. So he is a guy that, upon the first move not working, I'd like to see him do it more. He is a guy that will go to a secondary rush and still be able to hit home. Versatility. This is a guy that at Texas A&M played up and down that defensive line, left end, right end, interior, both positions, 3 tech, you name it, he did it at Texas A&M and excelled at it. And that's part of the reason everyone is so high on this guy, is because it doesn't really matter where you line him up along the defense. This is a guy that can get it done for you. And I think he was probably at his best in the interior. Is as crazy as that sounds. We're talking about an edge rusher, but when they would slide him inside or they would run him on a twist or a stunt, this was a guy that would get to the quarterback. He was so much more effective to me, at least in 2016. 2015 was a different animal altogether. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but 2016 for me, Myles Garrett was a little bit more effective as an interior rusher than a guy on the outside. And so in 2015, to me, he was so dynamic as an edge rusher. But when they move him inside, this guy is just as ferocious, if not more so. So that versatility is something that is going to attract the attention of NFL coaches, scouts, GMs, team presidents, owners, you name it. Everyone gets excited when you see a guy dominating at multiple positions. Plays under control. Now, this one, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here and say he plays under control, but at times it can seem like he's a little bit disengaged. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But one thing's for sure, if he's supposed to have backside contained, he's got backside contained. If he's a guy that's supposed to be dropping into the flats, he drops into the flat. He plays under control. He's not a guy that's going to come all willy-nilly into the backfield and miss a sack or miss a running back after he's there. He's a guy that plays under control, but we'll elaborate on that a little bit later on, for me at least. Toughness. This is a guy that battled through leg and knee injuries in 2016, was not the same guy I saw in 2015. Again, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but it takes a special individual to battle through injury, not complain, and go out and give it everything he's got now. Again, Some argued that maybe because of the injury, he was preserving himself, didn't do as much as he had done previous years. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But again, he could have easily said, you know what, not playing this week. We saw Jadeveon Clowney sit out some games in his final season at South Carolina because he didn't think he was healthy enough to go. So he could have done that. He could have taken that route. He didn't. So I'm here to tell you that this is a guy that has some toughness, but there are some other questions about his ability mentally. I think he is tough. And is he a rugged football player? We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. And these are all my criticisms, not anybody else's. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But finally, last but not least, heavy collegiate production. This is a guy in 3 years at Texas A&M, 32 and a half sacks, 48 and a half tackles for loss. This guy was a demon on the football field, getting it done year in, year out. When he was healthy, he was the absolute best at what he does in college football. Was not the healthiest in 2016, which is why you saw a steep, sharp decline in his numbers, but yet he was still a force that teams had to reckon with week in and week out. So you go from those pros to some cons, some of them questions more so than actual tangible evidence, some things that I think we saw on tape that he's going to have to clean up at the next level. Let's get to Myles Garrett and his cons. First things first, you talk about Myles Garrett, and I think everyone wants to know, can he set a physical edge in the run game consistently? Yeah, he can set an edge in the run game, but can he do it consistently? I'm not sure if he can or not. At 272 pounds, why are we having this discussion? Good question. I don't know. And that's why you get the Booger McFarlands of the world, the Warren Sapps, questioning his toughness, his ability to be a physical football player and make more plays and be that guy that's a ferocious animal. At 272, we shouldn't be asking the question, can he set a physical edge? He's more than capable of doing it. I talked about his strength, 33 reps of 2 1/4. I talked about his lower half being a freak of nature, 41-inch vertical. This guy's strong lower half, strong upper half, 272, long arms. Why are we talking about this guy being able to or not set a physical edge? That shouldn't be a question. And to me, that's all want to. And so that's something he's got to clean up. We shouldn't be having this discussion with a guy of his ilk, a guy of his size, a guy of his potential. We should not be asking the question, can you set a physical edge in the run game for me? Snap in, snap out. That shouldn't be something that we should be debating with Myles Garrett. The next con, have more of a rush plan. He's got so many moves in his arsenal. I saw a spin move. I know he can bull rush. There's pure unadulterated speed and explosion. I saw outside, back, inside. I saw rip. There are a number of moves in the tool belt, yet I don't get them on a consistent basis. And there's no actual plan. There's no, okay, I went hard outside the last 5 times against this guy on the last 5 second and third down situations when they threw the football. Now I'm going to go hard outside, plant back inside. Or now I'm going to go hard outside, spin. Okay, set guys up. It's as much a mental game as it is a physical one at the next level. These tackles are all great athletes for the most part. When you go up against an elite tackle at the next, and he went up against a ton of elite tackles in college, Lyle Collins, Cam Robinson, a number of guys that you're going to see on Sundays. And if you're going up against that kind of talent, then you should be able to play that mental game because these guys are athletes. And at the next level, you're not going to just beat all of these guys with just pure unadulterated athleticism. You're going to have to use your mental capacity as well. You're going to have to play that mental game because, again, it's that mental warfare that's going to win you out a lot of times and get you to the quarterback because you got to set these guys up. And I don't see him doing that. I don't see him coming with a consistent rush plan. He's just willy-nilly out there. I'm just going to try to win because I'm a better athlete. Got to come with some type of plan if you're Myles Garrett on a more consistent basis. And finally, this is more of a question and more of a criticism that I have than anything else. All right. Does he have a mean streak? I'm not sure. He seems like a really nice guy to me. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a nice guy. But I want a mean, nasty, physical guy on the edge, okay? He's a guy that wants to help everybody up after every play. Is there anything wrong with that? No. But, I mean, he goes out of his way to help defenders up. I mean, offensive player. Okay, fine, whatever. He didn't want to go on Mike and Mike because they criticized him, okay? What? I mean, how thin-skinned are you? All right, you don't see this guy get overly emotional on the football field, which again, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when you start putting all these things together, he doesn't set a physical edge in the run game consistently. I start to wonder. And I heard someone on some telecast I was watching once upon a time ask, is this guy mean? And they said, yeah, he threw chairs after a loss in a high school game. And so when people have to start going and digging up information like that just to figure out if you get upset, I'm not sure if this guy has a mean streak in him or not, if he's nasty enough. That's what I worry about with Myles Garrett. But if you're talking about all the physical gifts and tools necessary to dominate at the next level, you're talking about Myles Garrett. And so there's no doubt in my mind that upside-wise, he's the best player in this draft. You take him number one if you're the Cleveland Browns and you don't look back. But there are some questions that people have, and maybe rightfully so, and we'll see how he goes and fares at the next level and how he combats some of the criticisms that he's faced throughout this draft process. One thing's for sure, he's a good kid off the field. Haven't heard anything in that capacity. Seems like he's got his head on his shoulders and he's a hard worker and he's willing to put in the time and effort to become a better football player. And that's what you want with a guy with this type of talent. If he's willing to put in the work that matches his talent, he could be one of the best players we've seen come out of the draft in quite some time. That's Myles Garrett in his Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie Tee Network. Come back and join me as I got plenty more breakdowns to get to. If it happens in the National Football League, you know I'm going to have it here on the Louie Tee Network. I will see you next time. We're getting ever so close to the draft. Come on back. We got more breakdowns.